I like to read the Third Trumpet. When the third angel blew his trumpet, a huge star burning like a torch crashed down from the sky. It fell on a third of the rivers and the springs. The star's name was Wormwood, because a third part of all the water turned to wormwood. Many people died from this polluted water. Now, this particular piece of prophecy found its way into the limelight in 1985. The scene took place at the reactor located in Chernobyl. In 1985, a reactor at Chernobyl experienced a meltdown. During this time, someone made a claim that Chernobyl was a Russian translation of the English word wormwood found in Revelations. Though there is some degree of truth in the linguistics of translation, it is only partly correct. A proper English translation of the word Chernobyl is mugwort. Let's put this in there. Okay. Now, the actual connection Chernobyl has to wormwood is clarified by botanical descriptors of plants. Wormwood and Chernobyls are plants that share the genus Artemisia. Artemisia. Okay, that's wormwood. Artemisia. Okay. Each of these Artemisia plants have what I described as amusing. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Wormwood and Chernobyl are plants that share the genus Artemisia. Botanically, wormwood is Artemisia absinthium. This is wormwood here. Okay. Chernobyl, or mugwort, is Artemisia vulgaris. Each of these Artemisia plants have what I described as amusing botanical names. Absinthium sounds like something you might abstain from. Vulgaris, the Chernobyl variety, is self-explanatory in the world today. Kind of reminds me, there used to be some time ago, there was a Wile E. Coyote, the Roadrunner movie, you know, and they'd go into something like the Roadrunner was Birdiest, most fastest, and the Coyote was hungriest, mostest, hungriest. Anyway, prophecy doesn't actually specifically mention a reactor at Chernobyl, but it is of interest to ponder how close Chernobyl came to fulfilling the contamination of a third of the water and the land. The real paradox in prophecy begins several hundred years ago, when a city would emerge in Russia which would be named Chernobyl in the first place. Several hundred years later, this city, of all cities, would be chosen as a site for an atomic power plant. Once that plant was built and operational, of all the atomic plants in the world, it would be the one at Chernobyl that melted down. There's a little more to the story than a botanical translation present here. Nowhere does this trumpet mention nuclear reactors or a reactor meltdown. People see a prophetic connection to it anyway. I do. It takes a life of its own when viewed from a prophetic viewpoint. There are a few things to keep in mind. A reactor set near a river. Reactors are always close to a lot of water. In addition to this, the reactor set directly atop an aquifer a few hundred feet below it. Aquifers are large underground rivers, and like sources of water, they are often tapped for well water. In this case, these aquifers feed rivers in Europe. The melting core could not be stabilized. It could have melted into the aquifer below the reactor site. This would have caused a massive explosion and contaminations many times worse than we actually saw. Imagine that whole thing being ready out there, and then Europe, you know, all that breadbasket stuff, you know. Anyway, had this core fallen into the aquifer, it could have contaminated a third of the rivers and the springs, specifically, as prophecy or alluded to. We're talking about what a catastrophic core criticality measured in tons of radioactive material looks like, while people are splitting the definition of petals on a plant that probably doesn't have flowers anyway, in a city named Chernobyl, which didn't even exist when Revelations was written. In the modern age of today, we can see what a huge star burning like a torch looks like after it crashes down from the sky. It looks a lot like an aerial shot of Chernobyl in meltdown. The world narrowly escaped the dire consequences of the biblical proportions in the Third Trumpet. I have determined in life close counts and horseshoes, hand grenades, nuclear meltdowns, and prophecy. This trumpet possesses a nuclear overtone all onto itself. Many of the trumpets seem indicative of the atomic age. They come to pass in the time between the rise and the fall of the first beast and the rise and the fall of the second beast. We're going to read the fourth trumpet. When the fourth angel blew his trumpet, a third of the sun, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars were hit hard enough to be plunged into darkness. The day lost a third of its light, as did the night. A certain irony of the atomic age is Advent witnessed its advent. A certain irony of the atomic age, its advent witnessed the atomic bomb. Back home, television was making its debut. While people gathered around the modern technological achievement of televising entertainment, at the same time, this medium was used to warn people about nuclear annihilation. The television programs were often interrupted with public service bulletins telling people what to do in the event of a nuclear blast. In the 1960s, they were aired in living color. Perhaps we should air the commercials again. Like Grandma's old dress, some things never go out of style. After many years working with Revelations, I've come to appreciate the significance and clarity to the effects of the atomic age seemingly foretold in Revelations. Atomic overtones grow louder in each trumpet. In addition to depictions of modern weapons, not just nuclear, are depictions of the method behind the political rise of the beast, a topic which follows the seals, trumpets, and bowls. As always, I will blend Islamic prophecy with the prophecy from Revelations. Each makes the other easier to understand. Imagine that. The fourth trumpet could itself serve as an introduction to a college class on the definition of nuclear winter. And this trumpet is an example of something which has meaning in the modern age, the time period of the first and second beasts. Certainly this could depict a nuclear winter. This event would have a long-term effect, triggering widespread famine. Before the 50s, no one knew what a nuclear winter was. Fortunately, we had modern television and living color to explain it. There is a trick to the perspective in interpreting the seals, trumpets, and bowls in general that I cover in the close of the 7 bowls, which follow the 7 seals and 7 trumpets. There is a logical encoding that really helps understand prophecy. Islam itself is of great aid largely because the War of Armageddon is fought in the Middle East, just like Revelation says that it is. Remember, these Revelations was written before Christianity even existed, let alone Islam. Islam says the same thing about the war being in the Middle East too. It tells you the same thing. The War of Armageddon will start with a volatile mix of gunpowder, hate, and greed. Exactly how it is supposed to end is the question.